lots to learn. I'm really excited because it's a topic that is what I was telling you, Nick. I'm learning more and more about it. The more I find out, I'm like, oh my God, it is a miracle what we can do with algae. So super welcome today. We're super excited to learn about your journey, about your startup, the impact that you are creating, and also what are the next steps? I saw that you recently won an award, but what are the next steps? How are we going to change the world together? So super big welcome. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, great opportunity to meet everyone. And again, yeah, I hope I can bring some value to our listeners tonight.
100% you will. I'm sure you will. So Nick, tell us, what is algae? Where does it come from? What do we do with it? And why is it becoming such a hot topic at the moment? I'm hearing more and more about it. Different countries investing in the technology and using it in products. And so tell us more about it. Give us a little intro, what it is. What's the algae world?
Okay, well, algae, as you know, it's pretty much seaweed. But it's not just seaweed because there are like, thousands of different species. But in essence, it's seaweed. And the reason why it's such a hot topic at the moment is because people are beginning to understand the good values that algae brings to a lot of the spaces that we have in our industry. So, you've got people experimenting with algae in the biotech space. You've got food, you've got cosmetics, you've got face creams, you've got people like myself in the fashion space. And the reason why is that algae is so versatile. Algae in the wild grows really fast, so it's easy to cultivate. And the thing about algae is that it can save a lot of stuff like water and energy for it to grow or to cultivate. But yes, also algae is biodegradable. Which is great, especially for someone like ourselves, in the fashion space. And I'll touch about this at a later point. But algae is also is biodegradable, but when it goes into a landfill, it can decompose itself, and it takes less time for it to decompose. Say, something like cotton, for example, it would take over 100 years to decompose. So it's great for our planet.
Mm-hmm. And how fast does it grow, and how does it grow so fast? Because when I heard one of our students at Acantament is very passionate about the same topic as you're passionate about, and when she told me about how fast it grew, I'm just like, how's that even possible? So how fast does it grow, and how do we get it to grow so fast?
Algae grows really, really fast with the assistance of good sun and good water. So in our space, we have algae farmers that cultivate the algae, and in the wild they'll grow like wildfire. So yeah, algae does grow very fast, and that's one of the attractiveness about using algae in what we're doing.
And how did you get into the space, and why did you get into the space? Because it's not normal, it's a hot topic. It's a very popular topic at the moment, but how did you get into it, Nick?
Well, let me ask you something, and maybe it would be a bit of a surprise to you to know, in fact, everyone in this room and everyone on this in this session, that we're all connected by one thing. And I guess that one thing is that it's the heavy metals that exist in the colors of the clothes that you're wearing. Okay, I'll repeat that. The heavy metals that exist in the colors of the clothes that you're wearing. And this is how we're all connected. So that blouse you're wearing, Paula, and the shirt I'm wearing, they've all got heavy metals in it. Okay, and this is how we're connected. And the reason why we got into this space is that we knew that the fashion industry, it's a dirty business, it's a dirty industry. And by this I mean the textile industry, it consumes large quantities of water, and it produces large volumes of wastewater from different steps in the dyeing and the finishing process. And this is where the heavy metal comes in. So you not only have, let's say, heavy metals on the clothes that you're wearing, but also you've got heavy metals discharged as the effluent into our waterways. And when we heard about this, we were pretty, shocked about it, and we wanted to explore more into this space. And that's pretty much how we got into this fashion or sustainable fashion space.
So where do these metals come? What are these metals? And because I've been hearing more and more, we also had a student studying at Campus Venice, and her family was the biggest producer of organic cotton, and then they would have their own like special dye as well. Telling me like, I'm vegetarian. It's hard enough being vegetarian. I have to use organic clothes with organic dye. Where do I find that? Because normally, like yesterday, I bought something that was like an organic fabric, but it's not easy to find. Like it's within a store, like it's hidden in the back of the, like it's a tag within it, like a shelf. So what is this metal? Where does it come from? And what damage is it causing for our health as well? Because apparently like our clothes aren't healthy for us now.
Yeah, so for let's say for a textile mill to produce the colours that you have on your blouse or your shirt, it requires different substances for that colour to stay on that fabric. And the way that the conventional textile mills do it is they apply metals or heavy metals that stick to the fibers of the fabric, and that's how pretty much colors are produced. But what we're doing is something different. We're applying something that's natural, which is the algae, through algae pigments, and then we're applying that to the actual fabric. Obviously, there's a process that we do.
Algae, an algae can produce any pigment.
Not all algae can produce all pigments. What we do is we target a few specific algae types that help us achieve our colours. Mm-hmm. So not all algae are applicable, and some algae are great for other things like food and cosmetics. But the algae that we look at are very sort of are good with producing colours for the fabrics.
Mm-hmm. And the algae that you guys are currently using, is it coming from Australia or are you bringing it from other countries?
When we first started our startup, we actually sourced our algae from China, and when we did our testings and the results came back, it was kind of unfavorable and it didn't give us the quality that we wanted. So what we're currently doing is we're actually sourcing our algae here in Australia. I suppose the downside for that is that it is more costly. The algae here is far more superior in terms of quality, but at the same time, it's quite expensive for us. I guess the lessons learned there for us is, if you're after quality, then you have to be willing to pay for the price. But if you're not after quality, you can buy cheap stuff from overseas. And we only knew this when we started doing industry standard testings with a company called QualSpec. So once we've done our fabric testings, and once they've dried up, we sent those samples over to QualSpec. Now, QualSpec, in case you don't know, they're like the industry standard tester. So imagine a big brand like, let's say, Kmart or even Country Road. These companies will send their stuff to QualSpec, and QualSpec will then do different testings on the fabric and also on the quality of the fabric. And this is what we've done too, so that our testing is not done by any average Joe company, but rather by industry standard tester. But what's ironic about this whole thing is that the process is, even though QualSpec is an Australian company, the testing was actually done overseas in China, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yes.
Which might change this year. This year, everybody's looking at doing things locally, which I think will be good to activate the economy locally of every country. Now, Nick, tell us about your journey. So you've got 2 other founders. It's a team of 3 that are in the startup. And how did you guys, so you saw that there was this massive problem that needed to be solved. And how did you guys meet each other? Was it through UTS? And how did you guys connect each other's energy and just go, we're going to solve this? So what was the journey like of you guys getting together and deciding to change the world with such a big important topic?
Yeah. Great question. I guess the common denominator between myself and both of my co-founders is that we have a passion for sustainable fashion. We believe that we can make an impact, and we definitely believe that we can disrupt the industry. Um, Myself, I'm from a operations background slash banking background. My other co-founder, Isabel, she's our science expert on our team, and she's pretty much our go-to girl for anything that's related to science. And my other co-founder, Samantha, she's got a fashion background, and also she knows a lot about the dye process. And she's our go-to girl in terms of, okay, how do we achieve this in dye, and what is the process and stuff like that. So we each bring a bit of expertise into the team, and that was pretty much how we formed our team. And where we met was pretty much at events like this at UTS. We attended different events, and basically, we struck up conversation. I pitched to them to this idea, and we had this idea. Well, basically, we had this question that we asked each other: can we make fashion, and in particular sustainable fashion, sustainable and eco-friendly? And funny enough, at first we couldn't even answer that, because we didn't know whether it was viable. So, and luckily enough, we came across this program here at UTS, which I know that you're going to ask me afterwards, and I'm sort of leading towards that way. But we were banded together by pretty much our passion for sustainable fashion.
And how was it building the relationship? Because a lot of people wait to find the co-founders to start the business. So how was your journey? So the idea formed because of the friendship and the common interest between the three of you, or you had this idea and you were kind of like with your antennas on, just going, I need co-founders that are experts in like fashion buying and the dye and the engineering and science behind it, like you've got with Isa?
I guess, I don't know whether you call it fate or destiny or serendipity or blessing, but we sort of met each other purely by chance. And because we had this passion for sustainable fashion, we thought, okay, it'd be pretty cool if we all worked and collaborate together. I guess with us, I'm not going to lie, as co-founders, there were plenty of times where we sort of headbutted. And only because we had different ideas of what to expect in a startup. But once our roles were more defined, and once we sort of found out each other's strengths, we sort of played to that, So, for example, Samantha's really good with designs and all that stuff. So that's not my forte, and that's definitely not something that I would take over and do. But Samantha's really good with that. So Samantha would be in charge of that. Myself, like I said, I'm the ops guy, but not only that, I'm the guy who goes out and sources the funding. And I think my job is to push the business forward and make sure that we have sufficient funds to get to where we need to get to. Whereas, let's say, for example, my other co-founder, Isabel, her job is to make sure that, okay, it is doable. What our vision of Algatex and what we want to achieve in terms of the science part is doable. And her job is, okay, I have to research this, I have to find out, is it doable? And, she would spend a lot of time in our lab. We do have a lab, by the way, because we've got a partnership with the King's School. This is where we operate our science part. So we've got a proper, PC2 lab. And this is where where Isabel spends most of her time. Myself, I don't spend a lot of the time in the lab. I spend a lot of time in the office here at UTS. So, and like I said, we've all got a role to play. And I think in a startup, it's really important, especially if you're looking to team up with other people. At first, maybe define what you're good at, and then what your strengths and also what your weaknesses are. and sort of play along to that.
And how did you do that? Because at Accountability, we always talk about emotional intelligence, strengths finding, and understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, how you can best work with your team. Do you have any tips on how did you guys understand each other? Because I mean, it's very clear the difference between you three founders. It's very clear from an outside perspective. But when you are making a decision, sometimes you just need to go, I want to do this, but because of the nature of this person's strength, I'm going to let them make the final decision and I'm just going to have to respect it. How was your journey? Did you guys have to hire a coach, or did you do online tests, or was it part of the incubation process at UTS?
No, we didn't have any online coaches. We did have like business mentors through the accelerator program that we went through. That's the Greenlight Accelerator program. So they did provide mentorship in terms of both the business side and also the science side of the program. But often, you know, when we're together and we're talking as a team, you know, I would give them a rough time frame of what to be expected and what needs to be delivered by this time frame. However, often I have my operations hat on, I have my finance hat on, and it doesn't work like that. A startup doesn't work like that because that's only one perspective from, especially if you're in a science startup, right? So the science side, you know, Isabel will tell me, Nick, that's not doable. I mean, how can I deliver this within a month or two? So she would tell me that, and often we would headbutts and we'll try to compromise. Headbutting, by the way, in group sessions is healthy. I encourage it, you know, because that's the only way you're going to basically move the business forward. And Samantha might say, okay, you know, from a dye process, we need to do a number of samples, you know, and if that's not possible with, let's say, with Isabel, then them two will have a talk about it. So I guess the real synergy is when it comes together, all three parties, and this I'm speaking as, you know, from my own business experience, is you need to get into those mini arguments, because if you're not into those mini arguments, then really you're not talking about the business. And I think if you're afraid to stir up or even headbutt each other, then you're really not doing, you know, yourself or even your team any favors. So I think it's imperative that each team that, you know, express themselves freely and say, listen, it's not going to work, and I'll tell you why it's not going to work, because of this whatever reason. And in our case, we had a lot of those discussions, you know, and I think it's purely healthy. So.
And how do you structure your week? Do you have, like, because you're based in different locations and you've got completely different roles in the business, do you guys have like a daily meeting, a weekly meeting, or you keep everything on WhatsApp or Slack? How do you guys communicate, and have you built a structure around it? Because it seems like you guys have it all under control.
Well,
learn about it?
Well, as you know, pre-COVID, I mean, it was okay to meet face to face, and then COVID hit us, and that really sort of disrupted our business. As you can imagine, where our science lab is, it's actually part of a very prestigious high school. It's called the King's School, and our science lab was in
Parramatta, right? It's based in Parramatta.
Yes, North Parramatta.
Yeah.
So our lab was in that space, and at that time when COVID hit, there were a lot of restrictions in terms of, okay, we can't go there because of this and that. But and that sort of set us back, a couple of months. But I mean, I thought that was pretty good though, because that sort of gave us the opportunity and also the time to regroup and re-strategize and thought about a better plan on how do we tackle some of the challenges. So. And then COVID came, so we did what everyone's doing, and that was by Zoom. And our communication channel was pretty much through Facebook. We had a Facebook group. We've got a common drive where we upload most of our documents and all that. So, but I think it's, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what platform or what social media you're on. It all comes down to just having consistent conversations with your co-founders and your team. I think that's really, really imperative. Sometimes I know myself, sometimes I like to run ahead and do things. Again, because I'm the ops guy, I see things from a very, very different perspective from what my co-founders see. And I run ahead and I'd say, okay, let's do this. This is forgetting that, okay, realistically, it's not doable for what they're doing in terms of the science and also in terms of the dye process. And I have to pull myself back. And sometimes they pull myself back, you know, they say, Nick, you know, it's not doable, slow down, you know, we have to do this. We have to make sure that, you know, that the process is correct. But yeah, the communication is key in any sort of team like, you know, startup. And not only that, but, you know, having the ability to have an open communication.
Definitely. And tell me about the Greenland Accelerator, 'cause that's an incredible achievement. How was it? How did you guys hear about it? How was the process of application, and how was the journey, like being a part of it?
Wow, I got to say, the Green Lake Accelerator program was a phenomenal experience for us, especially as a startup. Now, firstly, the program itself, it's the only algae-based accelerator program of its kind in the world. So if you're listening and if you want to get into algae, make sure that you apply for the Green Light Accelerator program. And a good thing about that is you don't need to be a student of UTS. You can be an outside person, or if you have, let's say, an existing business. I do encourage you to apply. In fact, now is the right time, it's the prime time to apply, because I think they're collecting applications for the next cohort, which I believe will be early next year. So the program itself is for 6 months, and within that 6 months you get, you know, you get like phenomenal support, you get mentorship, you get knowledge that you gain each week in the program, and all of this is the quality of these mentorship and the knowledge that you get is definitely second to none. And we were surrounded by, or constantly surrounded by people, some very, very smart people in the algae space. And in particular, we had Dr. Alex Thompson. She's the person who heads up the program with the Green Lake Accelerator program, and she has like exceptional knowledge on all things that's algae related. So I have to admit, the Green Lake Accelerator program for us, it was quite an interesting journey. And at the end of that journey, we were able to demonstrate, not just to the program and to the program facilitators, but also to the general market. This is what we've achieved, and this is what we've done in our showcase. So it is a world-class program, and I dare say this, that one day I reckon this program will be your quintessential headquarter for anything that's related to algae. So if you are very interested in, you know, having or doing or starting an algae startup, I strongly recommend you Google Greenlight Accelerator Program UTS and fill out the application and get in, because it is a phenomenal program that's going to really excel your algae startup.
And that's my next question. Do you have any tips on how to fill out the application? Because there's lots of applications out there, and often we fill them out and we don't know if anyone's going to read them, and how long and how much in depth do we need to go with information. What do you think you did when you filled out the application that helped you win and be accepted into the program?
The application program, it's not all that bad, but it does require you to think about, you know, your startup and where you want to take your startup. I think what they're really looking for is whether you have an idea or a concept that's scalable, whether you can take it to market quickly and effectively. I think you don't have to have, you know, in concrete an idea that's all about algae, but as long as you have a passion for algae and everything that's related to algae, then and you express that in your application, then you might have a very good chance of being a part of the next cohort. But the application, it's purely online. You fill that out, and then someone from the program will get in touch with you. You will then have like a general, basically a meet and greet with the program manager, which is Dr. Alex Thompson. And basically, you pretty much kind of like a pitch. You pitch your concept to her and say, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is the space I'm interested in. This is what, you know, and then you'll get an answer, I think, a week after that. So
very fast.
But, yeah, it's not as bad though. It's you know, most people think, oh, I've got to fill out the application, and it's a lengthy application. You're not applying for funding, by the way. You're applying to get into a cohort, which does, by the way, it does involve funding. So you do get funding, which is pretty cool. And the beauty about that is that the Green Light Accelerator program, they don't take equity, so which is also pretty cool.
If you were to go back to day one of starting a startup, what would you tell yourself?
I would probably tell myself, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't hold back in making mistakes. I think that's, for me, that's probably the biggest one. And often I hold back because I'm thinking, hang on, maybe it's not right for me to do this, and maybe I shouldn't be doing this because it could lead to a mistake. But I guess too much time is spent on those, you know, on those questions, rather than just jump into it, make the mistakes. It's okay, because that's the only way you're going to learn. Yeah.
And Lewis is telling me that you won Sustainable Business Awards. So
yes.
How did you win that? Did you get nominated? Did you have to? Awards make such a difference in our business, because it just validates that we're working, and it helps us like build stronger connection and getting respect from the community as well. So congratulations, first of all. But tell us your secrets.
Well, thank you. Yes, our team was very fortunate to have won the Most Sustainable Business Awards in this year's UTS Startups Awards. And I think we won because we had something that was viable, that was commercially ready, meaning we could go to market quickly, plus it was scalable. And how we got this award was basically we got nominated, and then the first part was the nomination. The second part was that you had to pitch on the night. So you do a live pitch to a panel of judges, and then the judges will make their decision. And I think the reason why the judges picked us was as the winner was because we could prove that we could roll out our MVP as early as 2021. And I think that was something that the judges were looking for. Now, that might sound trivial, but if you're thinking, let's say, if you're from an investor, or if you're an investor, that is absolutely critical, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a business that's commercially ready, and that's you know, that you can take it to market pretty quickly. And I think that was probably the reason why we've won. But having won the award, I think it's given us a lot of exposure to the market. We've had a couple of inquiries from different parties, and oh yes, you know, having won the award, it also gave us validation. You know, so next step for us, of course, is to attract bigger investments. So there's a couple of programs that we're entering at the moment to attract investments. So that's where we are at the moment. That's where we're heading. But yeah. It was a pleasant surprise to have won that.
Can you share tell us a little bit about your business model? So what is it that you're offering with the Algae? So what is it? Okay. So it's the pigmentation, the dye. How does it work, and how do you negotiate with someone? Like, what are you selling to them?
Okay. Well, first of all, Algatex, in case those who don't know, basically what we do is we free heavy metals from textile wastewater by using all natural algae pigments that are biodegradable, that are cost effective, that's less water reliant, it's energy efficient, and also it's great for the planet. Now, we achieve this with our patent pending application biodegradable algae pigments that allow the textile fabrics to decompose in a landfill. So in a nutshell, we're the green conscious guys who are trying to disrupt the fashion industry. Now, the way it works is, let's say, for example, if you were to dye this shirt, okay, let's say this shirt is navy blue. So you would need navy blue Basically you need fabric, okay, and then you have a navy blue dye. Now, often in that dye, there's heavy metals, and what we're trying to achieve is what we're trying to do is that we're trying to take out the heavy metals by replacing it with algae pigments. Algae pigments is basically a color, and it's not just the pigments that we throw into the dye, but there's obviously there's steps towards that that we do, and by doing that, if you think about it, it makes the fabric more biodegradable. So if this fabric, let's say for example, if I decide to chuck this shirt away and it goes into a landfill, okay, traditionally it will take over like 100, 120 years for it to decompose in the landfill, in the soil. However, if it has our algae pigments on it, or our dye process in it, so our dye biosolution in it, it would actually take less than that. We're looking roughly around, we're still trying to figure it out, but we do know that it's going to take less than a year for the shirt to decompose.
Wow.
Yes, and not only that, the beauty about that is, okay, you've got something that's biodegradable, but if you think about this, is that the algae, the effluent, the residue from the wastewater, okay, we can actually use that rather than just chucking it away. We can use that as a fertilizer, okay? And the beauty about it is, okay, you've got this fertilizer that you can, that the textile mills, let's say for example, who are our customers, they can chuck the wastewater away, and you can grow plants with that. You can grow crops with that. So what you can see now is that we've got a cyclical process where everything is reused. Okay, so the beauty about our process is that the dye, it can be reusable over and over again, and obviously we'll come to a point where, we've exaggerated the dye quality, so we'll replace that with new dye. But the good thing about that is what we're doing is we're not going into, let's say, a supply chain, and we're not disrupting the supply chain all that much. We're actually implementing something that can be implemented on top of an existing, let's say, dye process. So that to us is very, very attractive. In fact, it's very attractive for, let's say, for a textile mill. So with these textile mills, often they would be very protective of their process and how they do things, but we're not saying, okay, we're not going to change anything. We're actually going to implement something that's going to go on top of what you're doing. So there's less disruption. And obviously, it's not, it's going to use less water. Okay, it's going to use less energy. And if you think about it, if you're a textile mill business, obviously that's going to be very attractive to you.
And what colors can you produce?
Okay, so at the moment, my co-founders and I, we're working on the primary colors. We're almost finished. I think we've got like one color that just needs testing. And then once we finish that, we're going to work on further colors. And like I mentioned, we're pushing for our MVP to be finished by early next year, by early 2020. We've got a pilot program that we're hoping to roll out as early as Q2 of 2021. And that pilot program basically involves, we've got two interested parties, or two fashion brands here in Australia who are looking to work with us. So basically we will provide them with the algae dyes. They would test it on their fabric. It would also mean that we enter their supply chain. So if you think about it, it's really difficult to enter a supply chain. If you think about, let's say, a big brand like Country Road, or one of the famous brands, traditionally they're kind of happy not having people enter their supply chain because the old adage, if it ain't broken, don't fix them. That's their mentality. But what we're saying is it is broken because you're polluting the planet. Here's how we're going to do it, but don't fret, because what we're trying to implement is not going to change a lot in what you're doing. We're only replacing the dye process. So come next year, we're hoping to with our pilot program, test it with two local brands here. And then from there, we'll get some more validation, and then we'll move on to obviously the bigger players know.
Can you tell us your roadmap? Like, what's the end goal, and what are the steps along the way? Are you planning on like taking over Australia, or expanding into Southeast Asia, or going over to the United States, which is probably the biggest consumer in the world of fashion?
It is.
What's
Yeah.
the strategy you guys have mapped out?
I think as a business, we need to think strategically. And if you think about it, where we're positioned at the moment, the safest space for us is obviously Pan-Pacific Asia. So Asia will probably be a good destination. In fact, in the fashion world, most of the textile mills are situated in Asia. So obviously it would make sense for us as a business to hit the Southeast Asian market. But what's interesting though is it's funny you mentioned about America, because a lot of the American companies are getting their textiles produced in South America, in countries like Panama. Panama at the moment is a hotspot for textile production. It is a hotspot. And as you know, my co-founder is South American, Isabel. She's South American.
Ecuadorian, right?
Yes, she's from Ecuador. Yes, yes.
I love her country.
Yeah, and we've had discussions about whether we should take the business also to South America, because it would make sense. If you think about it, if you're an American brand, why would you source, let's say, your textile and have your textile production in Southeast Asia? Because it's more costly, when it's cheaper where you are to go down, to South America.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been discussions in our team, whether the future should be in Southeast Asia or South America. So at the moment, I mean, we're just basically in discussion, but nothing's concrete. Who knows? We could be in both sides of the world. It'd be great.
I think that's the beauty of business. You never know who you're going to meet. You go to a networking event, or you come into like a live webinar, and you add each other on LinkedIn, and before you know this, great, because there's businesses that we do work with that like I didn't even know, like I knew where they were in the map, but you never even thought about flying there, and then you sit next to someone and this huge opportunity came out and the values were aligned. And that's the beauty of business, that we can build our strategy, but the reality is that it's just a guide that inspires us. We do research along the way, but most of the time we end up going into other markets. Yeah, it's huge. Yes. Good.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right there, Paola, because the world's becoming more and more borderless. And as entrepreneurs and as startup founders, we need to be mindful of that. I don't think those things should be barriers for us to overcome. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you think about it, where I've met my co-founders was totally unexpected. At these events.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we talked, and I said, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? And then next thing you know, we're forming a company. So so. You're absolutely right. You never know who you're going to meet. So always be, open to
having that conversation. I've got a dear friend who's like a very big ambassador of Accounting Spinners, and her name is Carrie Phipps, and she wrote a book on the power of talking to strangers. And it's literally done. You accidentally spoke to strangers, and now they're your co-founder, and now you guys are operating in Australia, and soon you'll be around the world. And the more you talk to more strangers, the more doors are going to be opening. And even at an event like today, it's getting live streamed on Facebook. And I'm sure, because I work very closely with the market in the Philippines, and I know that algae is one of the things that they're trying to use to rebuild the economy there, because they've got thousands of islands. It just makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah. Oh, that is. It's
interesting though, because in places like the Philippines and Thailand, the algae cultivation scenes over there is phenomenal. They're like so way ahead of us. And I know in Thailand they've got like algae growing on rooftops where downstairs is a restaurant. The chef goes upstairs, he gets some algae, brings it down, and cooks the algae and serves it to his customer. I mean, where else can you get algae like that? I think it's phenomenal what they're doing. But you're absolutely right.
In Asia, in Latin America, we don't eat like seaweed, sushi. You find it, but it's part of our culture. It's not a daily culture. In Asia, it's part of our daily culture. What are some other products that we can use algae that you can share with us? So where do we see algae these days? So creams.
Yes, like I mentioned, yeah.
I know that Renata's logged in. She's got her camera off, but she's logging in from Melbourne, and she's got a passion for package. And we have discussions around using algae in sustainable packaging.
Yes.
Where else can we use the algae?
Okay, so you've mentioned there's this packaging. So they're doing bioplastics out of algae. There's a couple of mobs over in Indonesia. So if you're, sorry, whoever's just logged in, if you want to Google that, there's a mob. I can't remember the name, but hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll see if I can find the name for you. There's a mob over in Indonesia. They're doing stuff out of algae for bioplastics. We've got a startup here at UTS also. She's doing fantastic stuff with skincare made out of algae. There's algae cosmetics, there's algae food, as you know, spirulina. There's heaps, there's algae in drinks. In fact, if you go to Woolies, there's a drink called...
I've seen that, yeah. I've seen that. And over in Southeast Asia, a lot of the drinks have it these days, like the green tea, the mixes that you get in supermarkets and 7-Elevens, a lot of them have algae. I've never tried, but
yeah,
the locals are consuming it. It must be good.
Yeah, it's really good. In fact, the one they sell at Woolies, check it out. It's called Impressed. It's a green bottle, but it's got, if you look at the back, it's got spirulina. Spirulina is basically algae. So, in fact, if you like chocolates and if you've eaten, let's say, M&Ms, you know the blue M&Ms? That's made out of algae.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've eaten algae, you know. And for those, of course, if you've eaten sushi, you've had algae before. But not only that, there's stuff, the more advanced stuff in terms of biofuel that they're into. They're making fashion, of course. So yeah, there's heaps of stuff that's coming, and one Google search will give you like hundreds, if not thousands, of different algae entries that can give you ideas. Sometimes maybe you don't need to reinvent the wheel and come up with some brand new concept. Maybe if you see something that's not working or had worked in the past, maybe use that as the basis of your startup. And say, listen, in the past, this failed. What if we apply this to algae? I know someone's doing something with contact lenses with algae at the moment. So, which is pretty cool if you think about it. Yeah, if you think about it, if you put contact lenses and your eyes, it's water, right? So it makes sense because algae is in the water all the time. So, but that's what she's experimenting with at the moment. So, yeah. But there's all sorts of stuff that's happening.
I love that. You learned so much. It's like, oh my God, today has been incredible, Nick. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Nick, I've got one final question for you. So the entrepreneurship world is all about collaboration. It's all about networking and helping each other. What is it that our community can do for you? So if we could do a favor for you, what would you like from us? What can we do to help Algatex be more successful and achieve more in appreciation for your time today? What can we do for you? For everybody that's listening through YouTube, through Facebook, or even live here, what can we do to help you guys?
Okay, so we're pretty weak in terms of our social media at the moment, and we're trying to ramp that up through our LinkedIn and also our Instagram. So please check out our social media and give us a thumbs up or give us a like. We'd like that very, very much. But yeah, and if you have any questions, I think I just saw it now. Lewis just posted. If you have any questions in terms of algae or anything that I can help you out, or maybe questions about startups or the Greenlight Accelerator program, shoot me an email or something, or shoot me a message on LinkedIn and connect with me. I'd love to introduce you to this fascinating space. I think it's really, really cool, and I think people are going to hear more and more about algae. And yeah, I'm hoping that
I've got a little gift for you, Nick. On Monday at 9 a.m., I'm running a 1-hour workshop on Instagram for Business. It's exclusive for our internal students. But Lewis will send you the link and you can watch it live with us. And if you aren't available from 9 till 10 a.m. this Monday, you can always watch it later. It's nice if you watch it live because then we can engage and interact. But yes, this coming if you're free from 9 till 10, I'll run a whole 1-hour session on Instagram for Business for social impact businesses. So it's perfect that you join us.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Well, I'm going to definitely have to take up on that offer. So yeah, I would love to attend that event. That sounds awesome. Sounds like something I really need.
Powerful tool. So easy to use. and it just lets you reach everybody. There's like 1 billion Instagram users right now, and there's 200 million Instagram pages getting visited on a daily basis. Like, it's incredible.
Wow.
So we have to be on Instagram. We have to be engaging. Super important. Cool. But thank you so much, Nick, for your time. Let's see if we've got any questions. I could see some comments. Louis, do we have any questions from our beautiful community? Clarissa, do you have any questions? Henat as well. I saw Mariana. Mariana was also part of, like, she's a UTS contributor with the Algae World. Yes, Clarissa, tell us, what's your question?
I am curious. I'm curious about how people can get involved, like, just other than liking and liking the social media pages, like how else can we find out more other than the website and the social medias? Like, how do we get involved? Because I've been looking into, I mean, I'm always interested in the sustainability world, and I like to connect people that could, you know, use your service. I'm very curious about the whole printing jerseys, because I'm from I play competitive sports, and I have been, and you know how they sublimate the jerseys, and I'm wondering, like compared to that process, is it similar to the process of dyeing you described before? And does algae actually could algae play a part in that production process as well?
Absolutely, and it's a great question, Clarissa. It's actually a vertical that we've considered in the past. You know, should we get into maybe printing? And I remember there's another group that suggested to us we should get into homeware. You know, it makes sense though. If we're dyeing, let's say, fabric, fabric, you can make pillows and cushions and stuff like that. So these are all really cool verticals that we've thought as a team. But I think our main concentration at the moment is to really nail what we've got, what we're really good at, and then present that as our product before we venture into different verticals. I'm glad that you mentioned about printing, because if you're going to do some research, can I strongly suggest that you research 3D printing that's made of algae. You know the filaments on 3D printing? Yeah, you can get that with algae at the moment. So, and that's really, really, really cool stuff. And that's really, really hot stuff. I know that there's a couple of companies out there who are looking to that space or are already in that space, but definitely check them out. But in terms of printing on let's say on shirts, stuff like that, yeah, that is really cool. But it's it's same vertical, but maybe not at this time. Yeah, great question though. Thank you.
Thank you. Mari, do you have any questions? Because Mari is also super passionate about seaweed and algae. Every time I speak to her, that's all we talk about.
Hello. I don't know if Nick will remember, but I spoke to you last year at the Green Light event.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have your card with me as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to know that you enjoyed the program. And so it's finished now, right? It was just the first 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it's finished already, and I think they're in the process of collecting the next cohort. But if you're interested in this space, Murray, get your application in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go, Maddie. I'm always pushing Maddie. I call her a pusher. Every time I call, she's just like, "There comes Paula." No, you have to play. Let's do it.
My situation was a bit more complex because I was working at UTS with them.
Right.
And my idea was involving something similar with what I was doing. So we had some issues with intellectual property and patent. And then I applied for the program because they say they wouldn't accept my application because of that.
Right. Okay.
Politics in the algae world.
Yeah. Murray, have you met Clarissa?
Clarissa.
Team up with her. You guys are both into algae. You know, team up with her and resubmit your application. Who knows? You might get
her name.
Yeah.
And I'll become a co-founder. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
The world a better place.
Yeah. No, seriously. Seriously, Murray. I mean, please don't be discouraged because, you got, well, you didn't get in last time because of, intellectual property issues. But I strongly suggest that you try again. I think given the current climate that we're in, you might have a good chance to submit your application. Who knows? Maybe they'll get enough applications. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But it's definitely worth a try. And don't be discouraged because Greenlight is not the only program. If you have a really, really good program, a good concept or good business idea, man, there are heaps of like Agtech programs out there. So in the space, by the way, in case you're wondering, what space am I in, which startups or which accelerator program, just Google Agri-Tech or Agtech startups or accelerated programs, and you'll get heaps. So don't be afraid to do a lot of research in this space if you're interested in the...
Oh, I know, I've been researching this for 6 years now, so
Oh, really?
I get that.
You know what? Hook me up. Let's link up on LinkedIn, and then we can have a chat. So maybe there's some direction that I can point you in. I can help you in terms of
one last question. I can see so many powerful women joining us today. So you've got some of my favorite social entrepreneurs with us today. What are your recommendations for girl bosses and women wanting to become an entrepreneur? Because you've got two other founders that are very powerful women as well that are changing the world. What recommendations do you have for us?
Great question. As you know, I'm outnumbered in my team. So, I am definitely, we are definitely a female-led startup. And the beauty about that is that it encourages other women to look at our team and say, you know what, if they can do it, we can do it too. And especially in our space, we're in the STEM space and also we're in the agri-tech space. So I reckon it'd be awesome to have more women in this space. And the beauty about this, if you think about, actually, you need to really think about this in terms of, getting grants and also in terms of funding. There's a lot of the funds or a lot of the grants that are available are for women startups or founders, and you can play that to your advantage, because if there's a grant for a female-led startup, go for it. What's holding you back? So what I've done is I've said to my co-founders, you know what, if you find something where we can make money or we can get a grant, apply for it. I'll take the back seat, and you guys, come forward and be the spokesperson.
Women are great leaders. They're great at multitasking.
That's right. Multitasking, that's something
we don't go like, man, the strategy, one thing, let's achieve that. We're like, okay, we'll build relationships. And then we're able to get just as much, but we've got a different way of doing business.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Paula. I mean, I'm terrible at multitasking, and often I rely on my co-founders. So, but men are terrible at multitasking. No offense there, Lewis, but we are really, really bad.
Sebastian is his biggest strength. I can't live without his single tasking. He saves me every day. He goes, Paula, back on focus.
But if I could perhaps maybe give one takeaway for everyone listening tonight, is that the thing about startups is that you're going to make mistakes, and I think failure is it's not preventable, no matter how hard you try. So you're bound to fail, and you're going to fail often. But the thing about that is embrace the failure, because the more you fail, the more you better equip yourself for bigger things. So sometimes on days, you're going to feel like nothing's working out. It's going to feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But that's the life of an entrepreneur. And if you're thinking of getting on this path, to creating something really cool for the world and to offer something really cool, then this is something that you need to embrace. So if it's the only thing that you're going to take away tonight from this session, just remember that entrepreneurship is, it's definitely for a very specific type of people. And if you're the person who isn't afraid to fail and fail forward, then you'll definitely fit. You'll definitely be ready for
And
your.
you always fail forward. I love the word failing forward, because whenever we
Yes.
fail, we fail forward, because that means the next time we're stronger, we do things faster, we make mistakes, and don't let the mistakes traumatize. Just learn from them, and again, fail
Yes.
forward, fail forward.
Yes.
I love that.
Fail
That's one of my
forward
favorite
and-
words right now.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite is Paula. If I can just maybe wrap it up here, is you know, there's no such thing as a setback, but it's always a setup for something better. So if something's setting you back, don't take it as a rejection or a decline or you know, failure or a setback. Just think it's not a setback; it's a setup for something bigger and better to come.
Thank you. We need to get you on. We should have had you. We had a TED talk in Sydney last week. I think it was on Thursday. You should have been one of the TED presenters. You stayed with us. Thank you so much, Nick.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, girls. It's just like we're all very, very grateful for your time today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Come back to
Yes.
the campus to visit us. Let us know, because you're a UTS. So
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, just finally, Paula, finally, happy
Yes?
birthday for tomorrow, Paula.
Thank you. How do you know?
I don't know, you know, I've got spies, I've got resources.
Every day is my birthday. Today's also my birthday.
Yeah, so happy birthday tomorrow. Hope you have a great time. And thank you for having me on tonight. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
thank you,
guys.
thank you. Lots of love from our community to you. Thank you.
Thank
Big
you.
hugs. And thanks,
Yeah,
girls, for joining us as well.
Bye, everyone.
Nick,
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, Lewis, for connecting us and organizing today. Thank you. This
Thank you,
wouldn't be
Lewis.
possible without you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Big hugs. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.